Hi, this is Crystal McFetters again with another episode of On the Dot. I have Mr. Gunnar Hand. He's the Director of Urban Plan and Design. Hi, Gunnar.
Hello, Crystal.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
Thank you. I am great. I'm great. Thank you so much for meeting with me. I have lots of questions, and I'm pretty sure that others do as well about the amazing things that planning and urban design is doing within our community, within our city, and our county. So, again, I say welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, I'm going to jump right in, Gunnar. Can you give us just a clear, concise, kind of an elementary definition of what exactly is planning, kind of like a planning 101 for someone like me?
Sure. Well, at the Planning and Urban Design Department at the Unified Government, we do a bunch of different stuff, but essentially planning just helps community come together, formulate a vision, set a course to implement that vision, and then execute on it. So planning can be anything from the how you plan your day or how a city plans its future.
Perfect. Thank you. So why is it so important though?
Planning is important for a bunch of different reasons, but I think mostly in a democracy in particular, where we have lots of individual liberties, it's how do we reach that greater good? How do we come together as a society, as a people, as a city, as a region, even as a country, to really move and progress our folks forward? Now, planning from a city planning perspective, I think focuses a lot on livability, sustainability, equity, things of this nature. And there are so many different people working towards that greater good in their very small niche or sometimes very large role, that you really have to formulate a strategy together in order to keep moving it forward, not just for that person's career or that group's initiative, but really for the long term. Things cycle through, people lose interest, people change jobs, people move out of state, things of these nature. You have to have some sort of document in place to help guide us as we seek that greater good, as we seek to improve people's lives.
Perfect. So it's kind of almost like a true roadmap. Without a plan, you're just going in different directions. So it's a true roadmap. That is great. Thank you for that. And can you explain exactly like what is a citywide comprehensive plan? Because we've heard a lot about that at some of our commission meetings and just within the city and the county. So just can you explain what that is for us?
Sure. We're about to update the Unified Government's citywide master plan this fall. And what the citywide master plan is currently is really kind of more like a land use plan. And what we're trying to evolve it into is to be truly comprehensive, so that we do want to address in a comprehensive nature all the different issues, policies, opportunities, constraints that are before the Unified Government. We started that work, which just wrapped up this summer, but over the last year, we started that work in the Dotte countywide mobility strategy, which is going to serve essentially as the transportation element for this future, let's call it now a comprehensive plan. Of course, that comprehensive plan will also look at land use, but it should look at open space, parks and recreation. It should be looking at public safety. It should be looking at affordable housing, all the issues that I think come to fore and that we're trying to address right now. Again, if we have this scattershot approach where we're not consolidated and thinking about it collaboratively, collectively as a people, as a society, as a government, then what we get is a very scattered approach, a very scattered implementation, which really doesn't move the needle, right? We need to identify what are our vision, what are our goals, what are our objectives, and what are the actions to meet those. And when we start to line all those things up, when we start to see that one action might actually address multiple goals, those become our strategic initiatives, because there's one, a lot of low-hanging fruit in the unified government, and two, a lot of need and a lot of constrained resources. So between those three factors, we can't do everything all at once. We have to develop a strategy over time that builds on one another. And that's what a plan is.
I love that. One thing as you were speaking that kind of like struck with me, I hear collaboration. So is there a way for the community to get involved in this planning process or provide their feedback or any of that things? Or are there any public hearings where the community can weigh in on any of this?
Sure. I think it's important to understand that public outreach never ends in a government. It is always ongoing. Now we have certain projects or planning processes, if you will, that have their own focused engagement. And I'm one to tell you first and foremost that it's never going to be enough. we can never do enough public outreach. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it well. I think if anything, that gives us an opportunity to devise new means and methods and innovations on how to reach as many people. And it's not just reach either, right? We need real, meaningful, quality input to guide the values that drive these planning documents. And we get that through a whole host of means and as mentioned, and methods, as I mentioned before, but we always have to challenge those because those can get stale, things can change. In a community like Wyandotte County, we have a much larger digital divide than other communities, right? So we have to figure out ways to get in person. That's complicated during the pandemic, right? So we've been innovating and trying new things, and I think it's important to understand that innovation does require failure. We've tried a few things that fell flat on their head. We learned from those, adjusted, and moved forward. But we will always do things as best we can during a pandemic in person. There's always going to be a digital component to these things. But most importantly, what I've found in my career is that if you make it fun, you actually get much more meaningful input from the folks that you're seeking it from. And so I think that's really important for us, is to how do we create events? How do we meet people where they are? How do we go to their meetings as opposed to just inviting people to our meetings?
Exactly.
There's this balance that you have to strike. And while the plan might have a certain period of time, its implementation goes much farther than that. So again, even after the plan's over and we identify, let's say, a project we need to do, that project will have its own engagement, and we'll continue to solicit input from the public and stakeholders and elected officials and others as we start to move these things forward, so that there's awareness to that, right? There's buy-in from the public on those different strategic initiatives that we choose to move forward with in a prioritized way. And at the end of the day, people can start to see the things that they had input on. I think that's the real critical point. Very often someone will do a survey and they'll see nothing from it. Now, your average public servant can make those connections behind the scenes, but it's really important when I think someone says there's an issue, that issue gets addressed, and then they see the community, or excuse me, the city, in this case, addressing that issue. That feedback loop is incredibly important to build the trust in our public servants, in our public government, to keep the ball rolling and, again, to improve people's lives.
I completely agree. So that is amazing. So I love all of the, like you said, the community input, as well as just making sure that resources are out there for residents or anyone that just has questions. So I was kind of looking on the Planning and Urban Design website a little bit earlier, and I found some amazing resources for me, just from some general questions that I had. And I found one, there's a citizen's guide to planning and urban design. That seems like you all cover so many bases with questions and concerns, or just general information about the planning department and comprehensive plans that people can use as a resource. Can you talk about that just like really quick? And then I'll have a couple other really good questions for you.
Sure. When I joined the UG a little over 2 years ago, one of the things I recognized that we didn't have very clear vision or mission statement. We weren't very clear on the exact things that we do. Now, every planning department is a little unique, right? Depends on the community that set it up, resources, things of that nature. So I thought it was important that we specifically tell the story of what the Unified Government's Planning Department does for our community. And we have a couple of divisions that do very specific things. And there's a bunch of different ways that the public can engage in those different things. There's historic preservation, there's zoning enforcement, there's long-range planning, which we talked about a little bit, but there's also case processing where someone wants to develop their property. It requires an entitlement. It has to go through, say, the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners for approval before it can get built. So all these different ways that people engage have their own unique processes. Some are tied to state statutes, some are tied to best practices, some are tied to our constrained resources. I have one zoning enforcement officer for 60,000 parcels in Wyandotte County. And so I think it's important that people understand those very base level things that planning does, so they can better engage with us, they can better understand the work that is done, and maybe they can, again, start to build trust when they understand that we're doing the best we can with what we have, specifically in zoning enforcement in this case. But the Planning 101 was Planning 101, the planning explainer that we put together in both English and Spanish, is on the website so that anybody can use it. Anybody can flip through it. Anybody can share it digitally if they so choose. but we're also here as a planning department to provide that presentation on a requested basis. If anybody wants us to come to their neighborhood meeting or any meeting, or even just walk them through it individually, we're happy to do that. In my 20+ year career, I'm going to be honest, I'm not even really sure if I know what city planning is. It's so many different things. So it's a very somewhat esoteric profession that can go in a bunch of different directions. I've just had the luck to have done a bunch of different planning jobs, a bunch of different types of planning, sat on both the public and the private sector's side of things. And the number one thing I wish I had had at the very, very beginning was someone to explain to me, what do planning departments do? So that's what we did.
I love it. I was going to say, I've went through it a few times. And so I was looking, I'm like, a lot of the questions that I had, I'm like, it's right here. Like it's like you kind of read into my mind of like, okay, I didn't understand, or you hear certain terms at certain meetings and things like that, but you all really kind of drove down. It's like you kind of took some feedback that you've received and really put it into that one document. And I love that it is bilingual as well. So like you said, it's a resource, and that you're also lending your services to people if they want to invite you to neighborhood groups, or it's just have those one-on-one conversations with you. That's very, very helpful. I have one other question, and then I'll let you kind of finish this off with if you have any additional information. But on last Thursday, on August 25th, there was something I would say great that happened. And I don't want to spoil it because I'm going to let you do that. There was there was some great things that occurred at the planning and zoning meeting, but I will let you kind of go in depth with that because I know I'm going to spill it and I'm not going to do it justice like you will. So can you explain
Sure.
what happened?
Sure, of course. At the last Board of Commissioners meeting in August for the Planning and Zoning Committee, Planning and Zoning agenda, we passed 3 plans unanimously. The Board of Commissioners did. First one was the Northeast Kansas City, Kansas Heritage Trail Plan. Second one was the Merriam Connected Corridor Plan, which updated the Merriam Lane portion of the Southwest Boulevard Merriam Lane Corridor Plan, which was from about a decade ago. And then finally, we created the first ever countywide mobility strategy, which we branded as GoDots.
Yes.
Never before had the unified government and all of the other incorporated cities in Wyandotte County, Bonner Springs, Edwardsville, and the city of Lake Riviera come together to do any long-range planning project, let alone develop its own unified transportation policy. We did that by consolidating all of the municipalities in Wyandotte County's policies from their long-range plans, area plans, corridor plans. We adopted both the Heritage Trail Plan and the Connected Corridor and all of the other corridor plans into GoDOT so that there is one single location for our mobility policy. It's just very difficult when you have 12 corridor plans to manage 12 plans and what to do with them. Not that any of those were invalid. Quite frankly, most of those corridor plans were half implemented already. So we just sort of picked up the pieces, reincorporated them into a single document, and moved them forward. And so we're already collaborating with our local partners and our local municipalities on a bunch of federal grants. I think all of that is sort of playing off of this collaborative spirit that we built countywide. And we hope to keep that moving forward, both in the citywide master plan update or the comprehensive plan, but just in general as well. We're one community. Our Board of Commissioners, yes, represent the city of Kansas City, Kansas, but they also represent all of those other incorporated cities too. So it's really important that we play ball. And quite frankly, I used to work in Los Angeles County where there were 88 cities. 4 cities is nothing.
I love it. I love it. So if someone has a question about where they can find the GoDOT comprehensive plan, or any additional information on these new recently adopted projects and things like that, are they able to find that information directly on your website?
Yes, everything is on the Planning and Urban Design webpage within the UG website. If there is a digital divide, you can obviously call our phone number. It's 913-573-5750, and we can connect with you in any way, shape, or form. Shoot us a letter, do whatever you need to do. Come to our office and ask for information. We have them here in the office as well. We can make you a copy, print you off a copy, do whatever you need to do to get that information out there. That's what we do.
Perfect. Gunnar, this was amazing. Like I said, I'm going to continue to go to your website because just from the the little bit that I was looking into the Citizens Guide, as well as some of the other information, the resources that you have available, it's amazing. So I just want to thank you all for what you do. And again, congratulations on the unanimous vote for all three of those plans getting passed. That was amazing. That's why I said I wasn't going to do it justice like you just did. So do you have any additional information or anything additional you want to share with Kansas City, Kansas and Wyandotte County regarding anything upcoming that they should kind of keep their eyes and ears open for?
Yeah, I would just encourage everybody to look out for the comprehensive plan. We should be starting in earnest as soon as September 2022. It'll be about a year-long process. We're going to streamline it into an update or creation for the first time ever of a citywide historic preservation plan as well. And again, really just building off the momentum that we created in GoDot over the last year. We don't want to let that just sort of fall away. We want to pick that up and keep it forward. So I would encourage everybody to go to godot.com if they're interested in the mobility plan. And as soon as we develop a brand and a strategy for the comprehensive plan, we'll roll that out and look to get as many folks as engaged in that as possible.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you again, Gunnar. And if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to go to www.ycokck.org/planning for some additional information. Or like Gunnar said, you can feel free to call their office. And can you give them your number one more time for me, Gunnar?
Sure. Main line's 913-573-5750.
Okay, thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing more information about the comprehensive plan and just whatever the planning department has coming up. We know it's going to be some great things. So thank you again, Gunnar, and I appreciate this interview.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you so much.